Hi, friends. Come on in, sit with me. We are at the last two chapters of Proverbs. We finished the book of Proverbs today with chapters 30 and 31. Now, we have walked through so much wisdom together, and these last two chapters wrap it up beautifully. The last two chapters were written by two different men, Achur and King Lemuel. We don't know a lot about them, but it is believed that Achur was a wise teacher in King Lemuel's kingdom. Lemuel's name means devoted to God, and many think that he received these wise teachings from his mother. They were likely from the kingdom of Massa in northern Arabia. Now, in Proverbs chapter 30, Achur actually pours out his heart to the Lord, and he feels weary and says he lacks common sense and wisdom. He deeply desires to know God better. He reminds us that God is infinite, so certain parts of his nature and character will always be hidden from us. The questions Achur asks in verses 2 and 4 are very similar to the questions God asked Job in Job 38:41. These questions remind us that we are only human and we should stay humble before our great God. Achur also asks God for just enough money to get by and to meet his needs. He says too much money can make us forget that God is our provider, but having too little can make us feel entitled or steal from others. Being rich is not the answer to our problems. In Matthew 19, verse 23 to 24, Jesus says it's hard for rich people to enter the kingdom of heaven. In Philippians 4, verse 12, the Apostle Paul says he learned to be content whether he had a lot or a little. We will probably be most content in life when we have just enough to meet all our needs. In verses 11 through 14, Achur shows the bad fruit that comes from dishonoring parents. The Bible is very clear on how we should treat our parents, with honor and respect. A life full of pride and abuse of others often starts with a lack of appreciation for one's parents. A person who does not honor their parents can become like a leech, always wanting more and never being satisfied. Achur also points out that we can learn a lot from nature. He mentions 4 small but very wise creatures. Ants teach us preparation. Badgers teach us how to build safe homes. Locusts teach us how to cooperate and work together in order. Lizards actually teach us fearlessness. And they can climb walls and go where bigger creatures cannot. Jesus taught a similar principle in Matthew 6, verse 25 through 34, when he told us not to worry. The most effective way to resist worry is to learn how nature trusts in the Lord's provision and then apply that same trust in our own faith. I'm preaching to myself right now. In the first 9 verses of Proverbs 31, King Lemuel shares warnings from his mother. He is told not to waste time with women who ruin kings and not to give himself over to drunkenness. Leaders should not indulge in alcohol because it clouds the mind, causes irrational thinking, and it makes a person lose the ability to reason clearly. Leaders who drink too much will compromise their principles. Proverbs 20 verse 1 and Ephesians 5:18 warns us about the danger of strong drink. Then in verses 10 through 31, King Lemuel describes a woman of strong character, great wisdom, many skills, and a compassionate heart. Many people think a godly woman should be quiet and reserved and completely focused on home tasks. While those are good qualities, that is not the full picture of the Proverbs 31 woman. She's a wife and mother, but she's also a manufacturer, importer, manager, realtor, farmer, seamstress, upholsterer, and merchant. She's busy, capable, and productive. Her appearance is never mentioned. What makes her attractive then? Well, it's her character. It is possible that King Lemuel was simply describing the character of a godly woman who chooses to live life to its fullest, honoring God with every talent and resource he has given her. She also has servants who help her with her tasks. It's impossible for any of us to live this kind of life without help, but it is possible for us to live and enjoy every day to the full extent that God has intended for us. The Proverbs 31 woman is an inspiration for us to be all that God has called us to be. We cannot be exactly like her, but we can learn from her work ethic, integrity, and her resourcefulness. Proverbs begins by telling us to fear the Lord, and it ends with a woman who practically lives that out every single day. The qualities of this virtuous woman are good work ethic, fear of the Lord, healthy relationships, foresight, encouragement, compassion, caring, and wisdom in stewarding finances and property. When these qualities are driven by the fear of the Lord, they lead to a life of joy, success, and honor, and worth. Proverbs shows us how to become wise and to make godly decisions. It also describes what such a life will look like in practical, everyday ways. This might seem all overwhelming at once, but a core scripture comes to mind when I remember that I'm unable to reach this standard on my own. 2 Peter 1 verse 3 through 8 says, God's divine power has given us everything we need for life and godliness through our knowledge of Him who called us by His own glory and goodness. So as we finish Proverbs, let's remember the bigger picture. Whether we are reading about Achur's humility, Lemuel's warnings, or the excellent wife, the message is the same. Fear the Lord, live wisely, work diligently, love people well, and trust God with every part of life. He has given us everything we need. Let's walk it out practically. Thank you for joining me and walking through the entire book of Proverbs with me. If any part of these last 2 chapters has encouraged you, challenged you, or if it's reminded you of God's faithfulness, would you please share the video with your friends? We have come to the end of Proverbs, but our celebration of faith journey still continues. I cannot wait to see what God does in your heart as you keep applying this wisdom. So join me tomorrow as we do a recap of the valuable wisdom that we have gained from this powerful book. Until then, keep fearing the Lord and living wisely. He is worth it, and remember, you are deeply, deeply loved. Shalom, shalom.